You know, there's something special about revisiting a classic franchise. And for me, Fatal Fury hits that nostalgic sweet spot. One of the highlights of owning my Neo Geo MVSX arcade is knowing that it comes with 8 Fatal Fury games, from the very first installment all the way up to Mark of the Wolves. It's a great way to relive the series' evolution firsthand. I first played Fatal Fury back in 1992 when we rented the Neo Geo console for the first time from my local video game store, Gamers. Since then, I've played it on countless other consoles growing up, and I've always been a fan of the series. I was absolutely hyped when Terry Bogard was announced for Smash Bros. Ultimate, even though so many people were like, who? But it's been 26 years since the last entry, and to say I was rooting for Fatal Fury City of the Wolves would be an understatement. Now that I've gotten my hands on the beta, I've walked away with mixed feelings at best. So, is it worth the wait? Let's break it down. Fatal Fury City of the Wolves is the first new entry in the series in 26 years, continuing the story from Mark of the Wolves. Developed and published by SNK, this latest installment is set to release on April 24th for PlayStation 4, 5, Windows, and Xbox Series X and S. Staying true to its roots, the combat takes place on a 2D movement plane while bringing back familiar mechanics from Mark of the Wolves, including the TOP system, now just called the SPG system, and the Just Defense mechanic, which now features an expanded Hyper Defense version. But the game also introduces some fresh twists, like the new Rev system that adds layers to combat strategy. Oh, and if you're curious about the roster, City of the Wolves launches with 17 characters, including 2 guest fighters from Street Fighter, making them the first third-party characters to appear in a Fatal Fury game. The mix of old-school mechanics with modern updates sets the stage, but does it deliver? Let's jump into the gameplay experience. This is where things get interesting and, well, complicated. City of the Wolves offers 2 control schemes. The first is the arcade style, which uses classic inputs that feel like stepping back into the 90s. If you grew up with games like Street Fighter or King of Fighters, you'll feel right at home with those nostalgic quarter, circle, and charge motions for special moves. It's definitely aimed at the old school fans who crave that muscle memory challenge. Then there's the smart style controls, a more modern approach that simplifies special attacks by mapping them to face buttons for easier execution. This is great for newcomers or those who don't want to spend hours memorizing inputs, but it still retains a level of complexity that keeps it from feeling too casual. It's a smart move on SNK's part, catering to both veterans and newcomers alike if they want to sell as many copies of Fatal Fury as possible. I genuinely appreciated the choice between the two because it respects the legacy of Fatal Fury while inviting a new generation to jump in. However, despite this flexibility, I found myself fighting the controls more than my opponent. Whether using arcade style or smart style, combos, blocks, and reversals require such precise timing and practice that it felt like the game was actively working against me. I went through a lot of trial and error, especially with blocking mechanics. Timing a block felt incredibly strict, and any slight misstep left me wide open for a counterattack. Even worse, attempting reversals was frustratingly inconsistent. Sometimes they'd trigger perfectly, and other times they'd fail miserably, even when I swore I nailed the input. The learning curve is steeper than I expected, even with smart style simplifying things. It's like the game demands perfection, and that level of complexity was a little overwhelming, especially in longer sessions. I found myself longing for the more intuitive controls of the older Fatal Fury titles, which were challenging but never felt punishing. Moving on to the special moves and systems. City of the Wolves introduces several new mechanics that add layers to combat strategy. Ignition moves use one bar of the power gauge and deliver a powerful attack but leave you vulnerable if you miss. Then there are red line gears, which consume 2 bars and trigger flashy cutscenes that look fantastic but feel a bit long after seeing them multiple times. The SPG system is probably the most interesting. It's a new version of the old TOP or top system, allowing you to customize when you want the boost to activate. You can set it at the beginning, middle, or end of your health bar, and once active, it increases your attack power and grants access to unique moves like rev blows and hidden gears. I enjoyed experimenting with this because, yes, it does add a strategic layer, letting you decide when to go all in on the offense. But even here, the complexity felt overwhelming. Learning to use rev blows effectively took a lot of practice, and hitting gear moves, while flashy and satisfying, required pinpoint accuracy to execute. The tutorial explanations were clunky and didn't fully explain the nuances of each system, leaving me to kind of figure things out through trial and error, which, again, perfectly fine. It's just the controls, it just didn't make sense. So please don't get me wrong. There's a lot of depth here. And for those who master the mechanics, I can see this becoming a competitive powerhouse. But for me, personally, the execution felt overly complicated. I spent more time learning how to play than actually having fun with the game, and that felt like a red flag for me personally. The game demands dedication and patience, and while some may love that, it left me feeling more frustrated than accomplished. Visually, City of the Wolves is stunning, character models are detailed, the stage backdrops are vibrant, and special moves light up the screen with impressive particle effects like Terry Bogard's Flaming Fist. Performance-wise, the game runs smoothly at 60 FPS, and the character animations are fluid. However, there was one odd hiccup, and again, I'm just letting you guys know this. Does it bother me greatly? No, it doesn't. But it was odd, and I did see a lot of people talking about how odd this was in the Reddit fighting forums, and it's the UI menu. It had noticeable input lag, and it was kind of jarring. Like, I wasn't the only one, again, who noticed this. Reddit users who played the beta were vocal about it too. So hopefully SNK addresses this before launch. From what I heard, when you press the button to go into the menu and just to move forward in a menu, it doesn't take you to the menu until you release the button. So it's not when you press it, it's when you release it. And I don't know if they did that on purpose, but if they did, it'd be cool if they changed it back because it was very awkward. Jumping in now to the sound department, and the sound effects are punchy, impactful, but the music was a bit underwhelming. The stage I played was The Port, and it featured a kind of jazzy big band tune that felt a little out of place for a Fatal Fury game. Even more noticeable was how the music faded into the background, easily overpowered by these sound effects. And yes, I know I can go into the menu and adjust that, but I'm trying to look at this from the default settings, like how SNK wants us to experience this game, so I can understand it better. And again, to be fair, guys, it's a small sample size from the beta, and I'm hoping the full game offers more variety and memorable tracks. But as of now, the audio experience was just okay. I'll be honest, my excitement for this game was pretty high, but after playing the beta, I walked away with mixed feelings. The control scheme is my biggest concern. Even with the simplified smart style, I felt like I was battling the controls more than my opponents. The complexity felt overwhelming, and it took away from the fun of strategic combat. I wanted to love this game, I really did, but right now I'm cautiously optimistic. I hope SNK listens to feedback because the foundation is solid. It just needs more polish and a more approachable control scheme to truly shine. So after playing through the beta, where does that ultimately leave us? Fatal Fury City of the Wolves is visually impressive. It's packed with depth and mechanics that could make it a competitive powerhouse. But the same complexity makes it a double-edged sword, especially for longtime fans like me who expected a more intuitive experience. It's a game I genuinely want to love because of my nostalgic connection to the series, but right now my feelings are a little mixed. There's definitely a ton of potential, but it needs some fine-tuning before launch. Am I still rooting for Fatal Fury? Absolutely. But the beta left me cautiously optimistic. Here's hoping SNK takes the feedback seriously, because this series deserves a triumphant comeback. What do you think? Are you excited for Fatal Fury City of the Wolves? Did you play the beta? Drop a comment below with your thoughts. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to ThunderStash Gaming, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a review or first impressions. If you're a fan of fighting games or classic franchises, stick around. I've got plenty more content coming your way. As always, thank you for watching, and remember, you're never too old to play video games.